Atlanta Raceway here on GreenFlagTV. Welcome, race fans, one and all, back to the Velocity Online Racing IndyCar Series. It's round 7 of 9 here at Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta. And what a night it is set to be. My name is Nolan Rempel alongside Lucas Moody. We bring you all of racing action from start to finish here on this fantastic Saturday afternoon. It's going to be a wild one here this afternoon, Lucas. 69 laps of racing action set to kick off here for the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, and qualifying getting underway as of right now. It's going to be a fun ride here for the next hour and a half or so as we get set to go racing once again at the home of Petit Le Mans.
A fun ride indeed. Here we are in Braselton, Georgia, just northeast of the city center of Atlanta. This is an absolutely magnificent track, by far my favorite, located on this side of the Grand Meridian, and by far my favorite track to drive in these IndyCar machines. I've been to it once for the Petit Le Mans last year. I've driven it many times on the sim, and I cannot wait to start with today's action.
So with all that said and done, the rain is not fully hit yet. It does look like, for the most part, still dry out there on the racetrack. So the rain is not quite out there for the time being, but it's going to be a bit of an interesting ride here to see how this one pans on out, as it seems to be very spotty at the moment.
Yeah, these drivers have 3 options for tires to what to start the race on. Primes, the alts, or of course those full wet tires. I believe the right call right now is 100% those red walled alternate tires. The primaries, you simply don't need the long run pace if the rain is coming and you're very soon going to have to pit on wets. But at the moment, those wet tires probably aren't necessary because, you know, the track just started to rain. The track probably isn't that wet yet, and you really want to start on these alts just to get a feeling for what this rain is like. And the meta in iRacing, Nolan, is that you don't pit on the wet tires until you get a rooster tail coming out the backside of your car. I think you're showing an onboard of someone who's actually on those wet tires. I wasn't able to tell what car it was, though.
Ryan Fuelis was the one that was on wet tires. Right now, most drivers are on slicks, although there are 6 guys that are starting this race on the wet weather compound. Time to get the party started. It's go, go, go in Braselton, Georgia, the Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta. A big chop across the nose, looking for 3-1 here, coming down to the turn number 1. Rooster Tails kicking up in the braking zone at turn number 1. As Field fires up and over the hill, back down in towards turn number 3. That blind right hand that you alluded to in qualifying. Some cars daring to go side by side through here as Matt Brewer leads the way at the bottom of the hill to turn 5, and now headed towards turn number 6.
Yeah, it's a great start from Matt Brewer, able to get the jump on our pole sitter Kostek Solovaj, taking that lead away from him, putting himself in the prime position. And now what you have to do if you're running these alternate tires is get a gap, because the rain is coming, it's coming hard, and you need to push as much as you possibly can before you have to pit in the alts. But here's a fight for the lead, Nolan.
Kostek Solovaj looking for the race lead. Is going to go around the left-hand side of Matt Brewer on the drive down into turn numbers 10A and 10B. And Solovaj able to get clear. Brewer unable to go for the over-under. And another battle deeper in the pack as Milan Vogelzang ducking around Andres Vince, who is on those wet weather tires. And now for the lead once again, Matt Brewer back to the inside of turn 1, forcing out, Solovaj forcing out Brewer to the left-hand side. Oh, so close between the two. Solovaj just able to clear him, and he's chopped the nose of Matt Brewer, and Brewer missing half of the front wing.
That is devastating. Great start for the 14 of Matt Brewer. Not having the left chunk of your wing here at a road course is absolutely detrimental to your pace here. And going too wide into the blind turn 3, Nolan, absolutely mental move from those 2 drivers early. That is probably one of the corners in all of racing that I would say you never go side by side through there. We're already getting it on lap 2. And Matt Brewer, because of it, losing half of his front wing.
We don't have a we don't currently have a graphic for the wet weather tires. We can see those sort of like half triangles or half octagons. Those are drivers that are right now running wet weather compounds. Matt Brewer is going to be forced into pit road to change out the front wing. A major tough break for Brewer here. I know this was not the afternoon he was hoping to have started this race from the front row up in second place. And man, what a shame, as he has to drop all the way to the tail end. Further behind, Sebastian Kinder fights his way around Kyle Clenworth. And several drivers coming to pit road. And I think all these drivers here are on wet weather tires, and they're changing over to slicks.
Yeah, and that's one of the main reasons that I thought starting on the alternates would be the best strategy here, is because, yes, sure, some rain is starting to pour at the beginning of the race, but one, you don't know if the rain's going to continue. Two, if it does, you don't know if it's going to be hard enough to actually warrant those wet weather tires. And three, it's just a super big risk to be taking this early in a 69-lap race. I understand why they did it. Sometimes risks are what you have to do, but here we go. Monlaw on the outside of Heitzema for fourth position. This should be a pretty easy move for the 13 machine, as he is on the reds and Heitzema's on the whites, but contact nearly happens there.
Near contact between the two, although they are able to gather it up. This is on board with Road and Eating further down the grid. He's now tucked up right to the back of Anthony Heitzema, trying to fight his way through as well. As the field drives are in deep into turn numbers 1, 2, and now back up for turn 3. Even further behind them is Marshall Crocker Jr., also still in the fray. And you see Heitzema going defensive here in the SS downhill, trying to fend off the behind, but those prime tires are just not offering the grip right now.
Yeah, the alternate tires, especially on a cold track, because it was literally just raining. It was just a wet track. The alternate tires are going to provide a lot more grip because they're not going to have overheated yet. That's the one big advantage with these primes, is that they take much longer to get overheated, to take that heat in, but they are much slower. They're harder compound. They give you straight up just less grip. And because it was raining, that primary tire hasn't been able to find its advantage. And that's putting Heitzema under a lot of pressure here, as we have some more takers for pit road.
Kinder Violas. Oh, hold on, as that's cold tires for you, and into the wall goes Sebastian Kinder. A tough break for the Frenchman, and he is going to have to take a tow to pit road. So bad luck for Sebastian Kinder. He'll be trying again tomorrow when the Classic IndyCar Series goes racing at Sebring. Heitzema, Crocker, and Eveting running 5th, 6th, and 7th. You saw all of them on the push-to-pass button, heading down the back straightaway towards turn 10. Heitzema still leads the way on the prime tires, but on the alternates, Crocker and Eveting struggling to maintain momentum.
Yeah, so now that that rain has stopped and these alternates are getting a couple laps on them, this is where their pace drops off a little bit. Not only just because tire wear, but I talked about it so much in qualifying and a little bit about it here now. They overheat so quickly, especially those rear tires. You just don't get good exits out of corners. You're just not able to find the speed down straights because of it. And now that Heitzema was able to defend for those couple laps for the primary resource, but here we go, a dive bomb from Crocker Jr. on the inside of 10A, and he will clear Heitzema for 5th place, but maybe the over-under, Nolan.
Marshall Crocker Jr. making good use of the push to pass. Road and Eveting also on the button, as he's going to duck around Heitzema as well, trying to make short work and open up the door. But here comes Heitzema trying to cut back to the inside into turn number 1. Heitzema's not giving this one up without a fight, and clearing him is going to be Road and Eveting. So Eveting gets around Heitzema, and that might be game over for that battle for the time being, as they have now caught up to Marshall Crocker Jr. And that is a lap car right now in front of Crocker that is slowing him down. That is Sebastian Dufresne, who was one of the drivers that started this race on the wet weather compound and, well, had to come to pit road as a result. This is going to be on board with Sebastian Kinder and his spin that sees him into the wall and, well, out of the race. Just clipped too much of the curb.
Yeah, that's a really weird spin. Not what I see in the dries ever. So I think what happened is that curb on the apex of turn 3, just a little bit slick, a little bit wet from the rain that we got earlier this race. It caught Kinder out, and it probably would have caught me out too, as that's usually a curb you can take a lot of as the lap car goes to the grass to avoid any sort of interference with the lead car battle. I'm actually not opposed to that move.
Man, I mean, these guys are going at it here. You saw Crocker and Eveting threatening to go 3 wide into 10A, and that is what has now allowed Heitzema to close back in and try to have an attack down the inside of turn 1. But again, those prime tires with no pace underneath right now. And now coming up to turn 3, or out of turn 3, Julian Altena losing a spot to Amon Lull, as Lull in the VOR machine gonna pounce and fire his way up into 3rd.
Yeah, remember that's team principal on team racer rights there. So Amon Law definitely has to tread carefully because, last thing you want to do is get kicked off your team for taking out your boss. But I'm sure those two are fine. I'm sure they're good friends. And I'm sure it's all in good fun. And maybe, just maybe, we have different strategies playing out from a lot of these drivers because, Nolan, this could be a fuel race here. With 69 laps, it is 100% an easy 3-stop strategy. However, back when I did my race a couple Thursdays ago in the IndyCar, I was able to extend to 25 laps in a stint by lifting and coasting and using map 5. So, the 2-stop is definitely possible here tonight, and I am very, very curious to see if some drivers try it.
A battle further down the field. Kyle Clenworth fighting it out with Matt Brewer here. Brewer attempted to go down the inside, and down the inside he will go. Remember, Matt Brewer had the front wing chopped earlier in this race and was forced to come down to pit road as a result. Now, fighting his way back into a top 10. So, Brewer's race still not done. He can still walk out of here with some pretty decent points as this race advances deeper and deeper into the night.
Yeah, and for a lot of these drivers that have felt unfortunate early on in the race, as Matt Brewer sends it over that turn 3 curb, it is going to be damage mitigation here for this race. Just pick up as many points as you can, try to keep your tilt under control, and drive that car to the best of your ability. But currently sitting in 9th with a 17-second gap to Vogelzang ahead, he's got a lot of clean air to really just push his car, make up some time, and I kind of like this strategy of hitting a little bit earlier. Definitely, he's going to have to pit at least 2 more times in this race with some fuel saving, so he's going to be a little bit of offset from everybody else. But Matt Brewer was somebody who showed a lot of promise here in qualifying, who showed a lot of just straight up raw pace. So he has the clean air to put in some good, clean laps, and now, let's see, can he lower that gap to Vogelzang and even start reeling in the drivers ahead? And by the time everything is said and done, Nolan, can he still find himself a podium here?
A podium, I'm betting not. We're talking almost a 30-second gap up to that. So I don't think he's going to be able to go for an actual podium, but I think he might be still able to potentially walk away with the top 5. And that is only if he's able to really keep that pace up. Right now, Vitor Gilharm further down the field at risk of going a lap down. He's fighting out with Andres Vinche, the car center of your screen, and then John Christensen in the midst of this 3-way fight as well. This is all for 12th place. These are drivers that all started on the wet weather tires, and out of the ones that came out of pit road, Vitor is on primes. Vinche and Christensen, though, both on alternates.
Yeah, I think the alternates are definitely the better long-run tire over the primes, even though you would think otherwise. The primes in a 23-lap stint, usually you think they're better. Oh, it's a little bit of a lock-up there for that blue card. Can't remember who it was. Usually I think the primes are better, but at least in my opinion, if you're able to underdrive the alts a little bit, you can keep up a better pace for longer, simply because, once again, they give you more grip. So I am definitely on that red wall sided tire here, or I'm on the red wall. I'm on the alternate side here, essentially, is what I'm trying to say. And I do believe that is the right choice.
Lal and Altena still within 3/4 of a second as well as they continue to battle it out with one another as they fire down the hill and in towards turns 10A and 10B. Amon Lal keeping up pressure. Ducking around, and there goes Lal. He's going to charge through and be able to make up yet more ground. Just behind them, Road and Evetink. Oh, hold on. We got one car up and off the road just in front of these guys. Not sure who that was. It may have been Dan Ench.
Yes, we'll get a replay here, then see what happened to the 52 of Dan Ench. We're going through the exit turn 1 here. This is turn 2 and a quick snap of right in turn 3. And yeah, simply just carried a little bit too much speed in the corner. Has to go to this the alternate track layout, but I like to call it the exit road instead, or that little runoff area. And, you know, no harm, no foul. I think the one thing that a lot of people don't think of is you want to keep your car out of those traffic cones because they can break your front wing so easily. I've had it happen to me a couple times. It is so unfortunate because you would think, what, a little orange plastic cone is going to break my front wing, and yes, it is. It's a huge dive bomb, though. Is that Crocker on Evetank?
Sure is. Crocker ducking around road in Evetank, and there's some more action going on deeper in the field here as well. There's a lot that's suddenly kicking off here at the Michelin Race 1. Evetank trying to let back to the inside of Marshall Crocker Jr., unable to counter, though, as they duck their way up and around. John Christensen also falling victim to Andres Vinci. Sorry, other way around. Vinci falling victim to John Christensen as Christensen fights his way through. And Matt Brewer's had a problem as Brewer has crashed, and that car is into pit road.
Yeah, so hopefully we can get a replay and see what happened to the 14 there. Because once again, he was a driver that showed a lot of promise here in qualifying. I think that he just wasn't able to recover mentally. You know, with that early wing damage, probably started over driving the car as he was trying to catch back up to the field. Overdrove it a little too much, and now he's out of the race. But here we go once again. Evetank and Crocker Jr. fighting at the hand, or fighting side by side here. It's a big lunge from Evetank. He even gets a little bit sideways in 10B, but that 18 thoroughly now placed in front of the 25, and Heitzema still on the back of this battle. These three cars have been under a blanket the entire race, and lap 13, still nothing has changed.
Anthony Heitzema has reeled in the gap as well, just a little ways behind as they go into turn 3, 4, and then down through the S's into 5. And looking like this fight's going to break apart just a little bit for the time being. This is what happened to Matt Brewer that sees him down and out of the race. Oh, that's a hardware failure. That is a hardware failure through and through, and you can hear the car is still stuck at full throttle. That is a complete wheel disconnect. And this, just a little while ago, this is Vitor Gulharm here, trying to go down the inside, and he's going to collide with, I think that's Vinci just in front, and he spears off the road as well.
Okay, so a lot of events happening here. 13 laps into the race, you saw just a catastrophic hardware failure for the 14, a little bit of contact for the 21, but we still have a good fight here once again for that final position in that top 5. And if I'm Julian Altsna, if I'm Amon Lal, I am loving the fact that Crocker Jr. keeps putting pressure onto Roden Evetank so that Evetank doesn't ever have a chance to start attacking Altsna or really closing that about 2-second gap ahead of Evetank. So if I'm Altsna, I'm loving what's happening in my rearview mirrors right now.
Roden Evetank keeping the pressure on here as Marshall Crocker and Anthony Heitzema continue to battle it out. Towards the front, Amon Lal closing back in on Liam O'Sullivan. He's going to look to make a move down to the inside at turn 10. And Amon Lal through into second place. Good drive for him. As behind Crocker, still trying to run down the number 18.
Yeah, and Amon Lal just doing absolute God's work here, making up a ton of positions on these really quick drivers like Liam O'Sullivan, like Julian Altsna. And now, can he bring the fight to Kolstek Solowaj? Currently 11 seconds in first place. That's going to be the job of the 13 now to reel that in and really give the fans a good battle here. Hopefully by the end of the race, but it's going to take a while because with the way Solowaj has been putting in laps, the most that Amon Lal would be able to gain on him is probably 3 to 4 tenths a lap. But now he's just going to put Liam O'Sullivan right behind him, not even focus on him, but just focus on the car ahead. As here we now are on board with Roden Evetank, that 18 machine. Of course now, finally he has escaped from Crocker Jr. and caught up to the back of Julian Altsna now.
Gap still hovering around 3.5 to 4 tenths of a second here. Evetank all the way up to 5th place after starting back in 8th as well. Towards the front, Amon Lal continuing to track clear of Liam O'Sullivan as well, not allowing for O'Sullivan to get close enough to have another go at him. Remember, of course, those two drivers, I do believe, are teammates as well. So it makes sense that they're not too eager to fight it out, at least for the moment, with one another, but doesn't mean they're not going to go at it later on.
Yeah, you're completely right, Nolan. Currently for alternate Autosports, it is a 2-3-4-10. So an amazing race here for them. Of course, John Christensen, actually now in 9th place, is also on that alternate Autosport team. So yeah, once again, a great effort from all 4 of these drivers, locking out the back 2 podium positions and a 4th place as well. But here now we have, I believe, that's Brian Fiola is fighting Kyle Clenworth. Clenworth just gets out of the way. They're on the same lap. They're all a lap down. But maybe Clenworth has some car damage or just doesn't want to get involved with that battle between Fiolis and Vinci.
He's got prime tires and the others have options, so he's not keen on wanting to burn up his own tires racing them, right? He kind of recognizes these guys are going to be at that tire fall off pretty soon here, so he can go a few extra laps and try to see if he can maybe run down some of the pace later on. Oh no, hold on, look out, off the road, Marshall Crocker Jr. hard into the outside wall as Anthony Heitzma shot down the inside of him, and that is day over for Marshall Crocker Jr. A vicious hit into the tire wall.
Why are we going too wide through turns 4? That is only a recipe for disaster. Oh, Crocker Jr. gets a little wide. Heitzma, though. You have to let off. Never go too wide through 4. Not only did he send it, he simply just didn't hold the apex.
Well,
I mean,
right there, Crockett's loose, right? And it looks like he's actually trying to hold wide here to let Heitzma through. I think just miscommunication there. I think Heitzma didn't realize that Crocker was trying to let him through, so he went in there with the intention to race, and that's all she wrote.
Yeah, I agree. If Crocker is trying to let Heitzma through, then okay, sure, we can send it there, but still the 22 wasn't holding the apex of 4A. You saw how wide that he swung up, because Crocker definitely left this space. It just, oh my gosh, that is a brutal, brutal contact, and hard into the wall for Crocker Jr. as well. I hope that the American Medical Service is on that quickly, because he's definitely going to have to go through concussion protocol there, as that is probably a hit into the wall at somewhere around 120 miles an hour. That's not what you want to see for these racing drivers.
Of course, it's always good that we don't need to worry about such medical stuff when we are when we're in game, of course. But you know, it's one of those situations, right? I mean, we see this a lot. You know, some pretty brutal wrecks that we've seen. I mean, heck, in Classic IndyCar Series, talked to them coming on up tomorrow. Well, just 2 weeks ago at the Auto Club Speedway, we saw championship contender Cameron Dance and Franz Josef Sturm both go flying, effectively cockpit first into the turn 1 catch fence, right? And again, it's one of those moments where you think, boy, am I glad this is just a sim and it's not the real thing, because some of the hits we see are absolutely brutal. But now that leaves us with just 12 cars now circulating. We had 17 start the race. Sebastian Kinder, Sebastian Dufresne, Matt Brewer, Victor Gilharm, and now Marshall Crocker Jr. all out of the race, and only 7 are on the lead lap.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a great point. A lot of the times with these Indy cars at these road courses, just very long races, it's just a race of survival. Who can last the longest? Who can keep up a decent pace for the longest amount of time? To get a top 10 here, you don't have to be on top 10 pace. You just simply have to make it to the end of the race. I remember when our league went to Long Beach, we finished with 5 drivers on the lead lap, being how tough of a course that is, and with the walls and whatnot and everything that course brings, all the challenges. But the IndyCar also brings as well. Road Atlanta is no different at all, even though there's no walls close to the track, because we have some battles here. This is Liam O'Sullivan in 3rd place. going past a lapped car just on the back of Amon Lal now, who they both now fallen 14 seconds off of Solo Wide. So that makes me wonder, Nolan, if Amon Lal made a mistake to drop him back 4 seconds.
0.2 of a second. He's going to be close enough to have a look here coming down to the turn 10A. Is he going to have to go for it on his teammate? Yes, he is. Down to the inside of the Lal, going to lift a little bit early. Oh, bit of a wobble there for O'Sullivan on the brakes, but he's able to pull it up. So O'Sullivan pushes back through into the second place spot, and now Lal will drop back to third, but still very much in that striking distance. Here comes Lal. He's got another run going. Not going to go for it, though, into turn 1.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Lal, I should say, sorry, backed off into 10A. He backed off into 1 as well. They probably talked about it. You know, O'Sullivan might have some more pace at this moment in the race, so he's going to let his teammate by there fair and square. And now also, it being lap 21 around here, 20 laps is how far you can make it if you're flat out on the field, on the gas pedal, I should say, every single lap. That is how many laps you have of gas. But I believe what these drivers are going to try to do is break it into 3s. Extend your first stint to 23, extend your second stint to 46, and then you can make it to the last lap on that third stint, making you only have to pit twice, excuse me. So that's what I think a lot of the drivers are doing, unless you're Kostek Solowaj, who pitting at the end of lap 21 either has to do a lot more fuel saving later on in this race, or has to make a third pit stop.
Into the box for Solowaj. Will he remain on the options? No, he switches over to the white-rimmed Prime tires, and Kyle Clenworth coming down as well this time by, being still 1 lap down. Again, he was one of the drivers that started this race on wets, came down to swap onto Primes, and now changing on to the red-rimmed option tires. Remember, tire change rule is in force, so you must run at least 1 stint on options and at least 1 stint on Primes. So once you made that first tire switch over, you're free to run whatever you want to the end of the race from there.
Yeah, and what I would do at least, and what I hope that these drivers here do as well, is they go 2 stints on the alts and 1 stint on the Primes, because like I said, those alternate tires, at least to me, feel like they just provide much more raw grip. And if you're able to make them last, they will just be quicker over the entire stint. So I wonder if the play for Kostek Solowaj is, since he was on those alternate tires first, he pushed his fuel tank out a little bit more, only got 21 laps on it, and the number, of course, to hit is 23. Now on the primary tires, if he extends his primary stint by more, then he doesn't have to worry about saving, or doesn't have to worry about extending the alternates long, as we have some more pit stops.
We do, and we also have Kyle Clenworth, who has had a problem and is down and out of the race. That's Anthony Heitzma and Milan Volgojang, who are now both down and into pit road. Off the jacks there for the 2. And they will both be out right nose to tail with one another. This is what happened to Clenworth seconds after he leaves pit road.
See, is it just another cold tire mistake? It is.
And called it quits.
And wow.
So down to now just 11 cars on the racetrack, as Liam O'Sullivan, the next one into pit road alongside Amal Lal. Here comes pretty much everybody else now that we still had yet to box. And that should cycle Kostek Solowaj through to the lead of the race, because there he goes.
Yeah, but Amon Lal and Julian Altina, both of them extended to lap 23. And of course, Liam O'Sullivan as well. And Roden Evetank, I should say, all 4 of those cars made it to that 23 number that I was talking about. So they are playing the field game here. They're going to split this race into 3s, making it a 2-stop. And Solowaj has a lot more to do here, a lot more fuel saving if he doesn't want to put himself at the disadvantage of having to pit an entire more time. But like I said earlier, could this be a thing of, okay, let's do 21 on the alts, 21 on the alts for the last stint, and then in the middle, you can do a longer extended stint on the primes. You can do it 25 laps on the primes if you fuel save really heavy. So maybe that's the play that Solo Wise is thinking here. But if it's not, then he's going to have a lot of work to do.
Virtually every car that just came onto the prime tires when they hit pit road. Brian Fiola, Sean Crichton, Andres Vinci, the only drivers that are still out there on the red ringed option tires, but they have also not come down pit road in at least 20 laps, right? So they're going to be in any time now, and we could likely see them switching over to the primes as well. So it looks like we're going to be having a fully prime tired field out there rather than the usual kind of 50-50 like we are used to seeing.
Yeah, and that does definitely make a little bit of sense, as you know, when the track now has really heated up and the drivers are getting it rubbered in and just, you know, essentially bringing up that track temperature, it makes sense that the primes are what you want to be on at this point in the race, because they just don't overheat as quickly that the alternates do. And remember, a lot of these drivers started the race on the alternates because of that threat of rain. So it makes sense that now that a lot of them are going to switch over to those white walled tires. And what it also does is you get one stint on the alts, you get one stint on the primes, and whichever stint you felt like you had more pace, or whichever stint you felt like was quicker, that will be the tire you choose for your third and final stint. And that's a strategy that I love doing as well, especially if I didn't have a lot of time to prep for a race. You can simply do your tire planning mid-race while you're actually putting in laps. So that is also something that you have to take into consideration here on why that can be the case. And yeah, makes sense that we're seeing a lot of the primes out there.
With that in mind, do you reckon Roden Eaton here is going to be able to overtake Julian Attena for the fourth place spot here? Because he's been hanging within half a second, but he hasn't really been able to go for much of an actual lunge.
Yeah, it really just depends on driver pace and how much they're saving at this point in the race. We know that Altena is doing the strategy of extending each stint to 23 laps. We know that Evetink is doing the same as well, and knowing that Evetink is saving, you really just don't like going for moves, because if you're lifting into every corner, how are you meant to send a dive bomb on the inside of somebody is kind of the mindset that I'm taking into this right now. So Evetink is probably just okay with sitting in Altena's draft, using the toe down the straights, which just allows you to lift off earlier into the corner and fuel save more efficiently. So if I'm in this 18 machine right now, I am so okay with just sitting back, unless I get this close. Because if I'm this close, Nolan, then I'm in the dirty air, and now I'm starting to get frustrated.
Diving down and into the front straightaway once again as you ride aboard the helmet of Roden Evetink here. Another car getting closer to a competitor here. Milan Vogelzang right to the back of Anthony Heitzma here, and he's ready to fight it out as well. So it's looking like Milan Vogelzang will be wanting to have another go at it.
Yeah, Vogelzang all the way back up to the rear side of Heitzma, and we do have to remember Heitzma had a pretty hefty contact with the 25 of Crocker Jr. earlier this race, and obviously we see no visible damage, but Heitzma is just going to let Vogelzang by, and probably, at least what I'm thinking, is he might have some side pod damage on the left side of that car that we really can't see. It's very hard to spot side pod damage, but with the contact as hard as he made into the side of the 25, I wouldn't be surprised at all if that thing is not driving up to full capabilities, especially because he is 29 seconds off of the lead now. It doesn't seem like that driver currently sitting in 7th place is up to full pace. And now with Vogelzang getting past the 22, can he close up that gap to this battle of 4th and 5th? This battle that is between Evetink and Altena. It is currently a 7-second gap in between Vogelzang and Evetink, but you know, cars that are driving in each other's dirty air, cars that are going side by side, they do slow each other down, so there is still hope for Vogelzang.
Well, we talked a little bit about how the Classic IndyCar Series takes to the Sunshine State for their final race of their final road course race of the season before the month of November, the Indy 500. for their final race of the season. But other races coming up here on GreenFlagTV. Tonight, you got the SRA Gen 4 Series at the Richmond Raceway. Lucas, you're back in the booth with me for another blast around the action track. The Blaze Metals ARCA Series will be out at the National Super Speedway. On Monday, the High Tide Racing League Premier Series opens up Season 5 at the Daytona International Speedway. Seeing if Jaden Hopp can potentially kick off his title defense on a high. And then on Tuesday, another doubleheader of the Mid-Atlantic Racing Series gets set to conquer the Magic Mile while OMSRL runs out to Kansas. And then the Premier Sim Racing Outlap Motorsports Truck Series will be at the Phoenix Raceway at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time in the middle of the week as well, alongside the Beer League for their third race in Formula V's as well. All of this and more coming on up. You can catch it all by subscribing to GreenFlagTV today completely for free. And join us for daily action on the iRacing service. Approaching halfway here in, about 6 laps or so?
Yeah, very soon we're going to get halfway. And just to add on to that list as well, do not miss the Friday night action for the Zero Torque Racing League. I unfortunately cannot make it as I'm going up to Columbus for Hollow Weekend, but it's at New Atlanta. It's at a nice old drafting track, and with 4 unique winners already locked in to the playoffs and 8 rounds left, can a 5th unique winner take the crown at a draft, or we're going to be a repeat for the first time this season? Do not miss that as well, Friday at 8 p.m. as we have this battle having to weave really awkwardly through this lap traffic. You see, I believe, I couldn't quite catch who it was, but that lap get completely out of the way. It makes a lot of sense. You do not want to interrupt anything that's going on with this lap or this lead car battle.
Well, the fights in the meantime continuing on all throughout the course here of the afternoon, as plenty of action still yet to come here in this one. Lap 31 on the day, and several drivers going to be approaching the halfway point in their second stints, as well as Lal, Altena, Eftink fighting it out for 3rd, 4th, and 5th as well. 0.2 of a second now between Julian Altena and Lal. Lal just does not have the pace on the primes.
Yeah, I've talked about it. The primes are a hard tire to get up to temperature, and oh no!
Oh boy.
And is that a Lal going way off the track?
Yeah, it sure was.
As well.
Losing 2 positions, dropping back to 5th, and that is going to allow for Altena to pick up the final podium position. Roden Eftink is in the mix as well. By the way, Kyle Clenworth returning to the racetrack. Now 4 laps down, but still very much out there and looking to have a run going. So Clenworth wanting to pick up some points if other drivers find themselves knocked out of the race.
I mean, yeah, that's what you have to do when you're in this championship battle. Remember, he is still in the lead of this title fight, and at this point, it's damage limitation, it's race mitigation, as Nolan was loved to say last night in that ZTRL race. And you have to, if you're in that 37 bright pink machine of Kyle Clenworth, just get out there, drive some laps, and if another person puts it into the barrier, gives themselves terminal damage, you just might be able to make up a spot or two. And that is just the mentality that you have to bring into these championship races. Even though you probably don't enjoy driving 4 laps down in a half-broken car, it's just what you have to do if you want that crown by the end of the season.
Coming on up for the Velocity Online Racing IndyCar Series as well. Only a handful of races left to go here, Lucas, in this championship. The next race is going to be race number 8. That will be at the Milwaukee Mile for 250 laps on November 8th. And then 2 weeks, the season finale of season 14 at race 9. It's going to be A 275 lap blast around the Phoenix Raceway with, of course, the closed dog leg, no open dog legs for IndyCar action, just as it was in the real world. Gonna make for an interesting run indeed. Kyle Clemmer was just off the road. You see him rejoin right in front of Eating, and that's checking him up into a Mont Law.
Yeah, this is just awkward. Clenworth now does back off from that battle, not wanting to interfere at all. But yeah, Eveting, Lal, and Altna, they're just under a blanket right now, trying to get through this lap traffic. There's another one of John Christensen, the fourth teammates on that Altna Autosports team. As remember, it is O'Sullivan, Altna, Lal, and of course Christensen. And yeah, now that they've kind of weaved their way through those two cars, maybe they can start battling once again, as Roden Eveting is, funnily enough, in an Altna Autosports sandwich. As I feel like I'm saying that name so many times this race, but I feel like, you know, of course, the owner of this league being Julian Altna, and of course, Altna Autosports being the current Constructors Champion, it does make sense. And here we go now. What happened to Dan Ench in that 52 machine to put him 2 laps down? A little bit wide in 6. But he's going to recover, he's going to save it, and honestly, no harm, no foul by the end of the day.
Easy enough slide off and into the gravel trap for him as well. We are officially halfway home in round 7 of the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta here this afternoon. This race absolutely cruising by, Lucas.
It is, and as I look at my sheets, I also completely forget to mention that Roden Eveting is also a part of Altna Autosports. So I apologize to everything I've said before. It's an Altna Autosports 2 through 5 lockout right now. As that big group of cars we were seeing, it was literally just 4 Altna Autosports drivers with Kyle Clenworth in the background. That is absolutely insane to me. They've taken over this league kind of like how Ball State has taken over CIL, because locking out 4 positions back to back to back to back, as they're doing right now, is super, super impressive for a team, especially in a 17-car field, and especially in a race that can be so circumstantial and so up in the air. The fact that they're all able to stay on track and this competitive is super, super impressive for the team, and goes to show the work that they probably put in to the beginning of this race. And yeah, halfway through 35 out of those 69 laps, it really is cruising by, and I expect to see some pit stops as well, coming in 11 laps if you're an Altna Autosports driver. But if you're Kostek Solowaj, I expect that pit stop to be coming sooner, probably in about 8 to 9. So we're going to see how that all shakes up. And Solowaj, does he opt to do a lot of fuel saving on his final stint, or does he go for the splash and dash and just go for the 3-stop?
We'll find all of that out and more in just a moment, as we are going to take ourselves a quick step back. We return. Racing action continues on. You won't miss a moment as we go side by side on GreenFlagTV. Stay with us.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
welcome back to GreenFlagTV as racing action is continuing on here this afternoon from the Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta. My name is Rempel alongside Lucas Moody. We bring you all of racing action here from start to finish of this, what has been so far a stellar race here in Braselton, Georgia, as Altena closing in on his teammate Liam O'Sullivan, looking for the right-hand side. O'Sullivan going to go defensive. Altena takes that one around the outside, and O'Sullivan chops the nose of Evening coming down to the turn 10A.
Oh my gosh, teammates are getting feisty here on lap 38 as Altena makes a great move around O'Sullivan, and O'Sullivan backed up just a little bit too much and almost made contact with his other teammate in that 18 machine of Road and Evening. So they gotta be careful here. We do not want to see teammate on teammate contact as we did last night. We saw brother on brother contact around Martinsville, I believe it was. Do not want to see that happen again. It is one of the most awkward things to watch, as you feel bad for both drivers, but you know that they're going to be mad at each other, but they have to make up, and it just gets super awkward super quickly, and tensions will rise in a team. That is the last thing you want to see for the team that is currently leading your constructor standings. And glad to see that nothing actually happened. No damage was caused, only just a little bit of time loss. But now Julian Altena running this race in second. Now it's his turn to find an answer for Kostek Solowaj. And maybe, just maybe, he'll be able to bring the battle to him. And there's still 30 laps in this race, a long way to go. Can he make something happen in these last 30 laps? All will be revealed soon, so make sure you stick around for the end of this race, because Nolan, that gap has already come down by a second since he's taken second place.
And he is pulling his teammates O'Sullivan and Road Evening along, who are right now just kind of running 2, 3, and 4. Tell you what, we got a little bit of an opportunity here. Let's take a rundown briefly of all the drivers so far that are in this grid as we are past that halfway point and approaching the second, we're approaching the second pit window of the night. Right now, Kostek Solowaj continuing to lead the way. He has led every lap pretty much so far, save when he was down pit road. Julian Altena back into number 2 spot, leading teammates 3rd and 4th with Liam O'Sullivan and Road Evening hot in his heels. 3.5 seconds behind them, you'll find yet another one of those drivers, Amon Law, Milan Vogelzhang, situated back in the number 6 spot. Anthony Heitzma down in 7th. From there, it is Brian Fiolis in 8th. John Christensen 9th. Andres Vinche rounds out the top 10 one lap down. And, well, Lucas, you got the back portion of the field, most of which are out of this race.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of things have happened to these drivers. And I believe that is Dan Ench sitting in 11th. That 52 machine currently sitting 3 laps down. Just behind him, our championship leader, Kyle Klenworth, sitting 4 laps down. And we have 5 drivers who are out of this race. That is, of course, Crocker Jr., who had the contact with Heitzma and a huge hit into the wall. Vitor Gilherme, who got out earlier. Matt Brewer, remember, had that he was actually leading this race by the end of the first lap, but had that contact, breaking his front wing, and was not able to recover, as well as Sebastian Dufresne, who fell to some misfortune earlier on in this race, and Sebastian Kinder, who spun it in turn 3 with cold tires in the wet. And that will be your full 17-car grid. Currently 7 on the lead lap, 12 still out and running, and 5 are completely out of the races. Now we have a replay, Nolan. What happened here?
Andres Vinche having a slide through turn 5, keeps it on the racetrack. No harm, no foul. Smokes the tires a little bit, yes, but otherwise, good to go.
Yeah, I think just a little bit too much speed carried there through turn 5. Able to, though, lock up those brakes, make sure his car didn't slide too far into that outside barrier, and is going to be able to continue to race here tonight, as once again this group of Altena Autosports cars has to fight their way through lap traffic. Of course, this time it's that 06 of Brian Fiolis, and now we're on board with Roden Evening, currently sitting 4th, looking at O'Sullivan and Altena right ahead of him. And we talked about Altena hopefully being able to bring that gap down to Solowage, but now it really is just sitting around that 20-second marker and not moving too far from there. So all hope might be lost with 27 left to go and a gap that is not decreasing. Kostek Solowage, as long as, once again, he can figure out the fuel game here correctly, probably has this one in the bag.
Currently, as they run this fight here, I know we've been focusing on it a lot, but it is right now one of the only battles on the racetrack. The only other fight we got is between Milan Vogelsang and Aman Lal. And whoa, hold on. Oh no, a big crash.
Whoa.
Huge crash back in the field here. And that is the 52 as heads up. Vogelsang scrambles along with Aman Lal. And man, disaster for Dan Inch, who has crashed hard into the wall. What in the world happened in the 2 seconds that we looked away?
I mean, absolute chaos here for the 52. I wonder if it was just by himself. It very well could have been.
Boy. Hopped over the curbing and then just got run over from behind. And then this right here could have been an absolute disaster. And that was Liam O'Sullivan that ran into him.
Yeah, I wonder, I think we're going to get the onboard, if I read your mind correctly. I did read your mind correctly. We're going to get the onboard here from Liam O'Sullivan, and you just can't see him. Okay, so we're a lap late or something, or a lap early. But even without the car being there, you see how that apex of the hill is really spaced. So he probably, surely, just didn't see him. And of course, iRacing is going to give you the spotter call, car on the right, but it's still hard to predict where he is. It's hard to know actually what's happening is... Oh no, he did see him.
He saw him. The only issue is he didn't know where he was going to go, and O'Sullivan inexplicably decides, I'm going to go right. And then one more look. This is going to be on board with Milan Vogelsang. We're going to ride aboard with the helmet here as he's going to arrive on scene of the accident completely unsighted. He's going to see Aman Lal duck suddenly to the right-hand side, and Vogelsang is the one that juked to the left. They have no idea the wreck's here, up over the hill. Oh, so there's a car stopped in the middle of the road.
I mean, just great reaction time there from the 26 driver. I mean, it really shows how good that these guys have gotten to where their reaction time is that split second. It's that quick, probably under 0.2 of a second for a lot of these drivers is what you have to be able to do, especially for all gamers as well. Just lightning quick reaction times is how you can make it up into these high level races, these high level competitive games, excuse me. And that's the other thing, because since I'm in Ball State's eSports program here, I'm gonna go on a bit of a tangent here, Nolan. I hope you're okay with that. Since I'm in the Ball State eSports program here, I'm friends with a lot of other gamers, Valorant, Overwatch, League of Legends, whatever it may be. I have to say, my straight up reaction time, eyes to click, is much, much slower than theirs is. Theirs is about 1.6 of a second, 0.16 of a second, as we have some pit stops coming in here. That's Heitzema and Vogelsang both making it in on lap 45. Or it should be the end of their lap 44, as Solowage has already, brought up that ticker up one. So they have a lot of fuel saving to do. They have to make it 25 laps now, which I said, once again, is possible if you're map 5 and coasting, but it's not easy to do and probably not the pace you want to be running at here at Road Atlanta. Anyways, back to my story. They have about 0.16 second of a reaction time. I'm sitting at about 0.2, 0.21. But what's impressive about racing drivers' reaction times, it's not the eyes to click, it's the feeling of your hands to motion to the brain. It's more of you feel something in the wheel to how quickly your brain can respond to that. You feel a quick snap, a quick jolt, just something off in the wheel from iRacing. That is where these drivers excel in reaction time. You're able to quickly save your car from a snap, whether you're going left or right. That is what iRacing brings to the table. That is what these iRacing esports drivers are able to do at a super high level. So there's a huge difference, Nolan, essentially the moral of the story, a difference between your eyes to brain reaction time and your hands or your feeling to brain reaction time. As a quick tangent there, right before these pit stops are kicking off.
Well, and a lot of what those guys are doing, right, is just by pure instinct that they develop over, time after time of racing in these cars, right? Because if you try to think about what you're going to do, you're going to fall behind. You just got to do what you naturally want to do and hope that you're right. It's the same way for dirt racing, right, and how they manhandle those cars around. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of practice that goes into it, but, I mean, why do you think dirt drivers only get, we're talking 3, 4, 5 laps of practice every race they go into? It's because that's all they need to learn. They just need, they know what the car is going to do because they've driven it so much. They instinctively know exactly what the car is going to do, what it's going to handle. Like, they just got to know how far they need to chuck it in effectively into a corner, and that's about it. Where do you put the throttle in?
Yeah, it's the difference of knowing, what's the best way to say this? It's the difference of knowing exactly the right process to do if this happens, to just understanding the process, right? It's the difference in math, at least. Instead of memorizing a formula, you understand how that formula is derived. And understanding how that formula is derived is so much more important because you understand the concept behind it. You don't actually have to memorize this lengthy formula if you know how to get it in the end. And if you have a good handle on a car... Oh, no! Liam O'Sullivan's race is over!
Goes into the wall, and game over for Liam O'Sullivan. Remember, he got caught up with lap traffic and had just put a new front wing on the car and then immediately loses the back end fresh out of pit road.
So the 2, 3, 4, 5 for Alternate Autosports turns into a 2, 3, 4 as the 12 of Liam O'Sullivan loses it on these cold primary tires, is too much loud pedal.
And not even too much loud pedal, just the tires were too cold. The wheel moves he was making were too erratic for the cold tires to keep up with it, especially at those lower speeds. Here comes Heisman, meanwhile, looking to attack him on Lal. He's going to try to go around the right-hand side. The battle for fifth is on. By the way, you were talking about potentially going options, primes, options. Most drivers have put white rim tires back on the car so they can go the distance.
All right, yeah, these drivers, just either the track is much, much hotter here than it was in my races. As I assume that's what happened here. 37 degrees Celsius means absolutely nothing to me, Nolan. Hold up, let me get a European to American conversion here. 90, okay, yeah, that is a very hot track temp. I believe for my race it was about 80 degrees Fahrenheit, so that makes sense. On a quarter track, those alts will typically perform better. On a harder track, those primaries will typically perform better. So, like I said, you do one on the alts, one on the primes, whichever feels better is what you go on for your third and final stint. And a lot of these drivers felt those primes holding their pace better, and they picked that for their last stint here. It makes sense, and I trust their feeling. I trust their intuition. And that also goes back to, I just trust how these guys understand and drive the car. Which is why, they are going to put in practice laps, but going back to what you said with those dirt micro drivers, you don't have to. Especially around ovals, you know how the car is going to act with your certain roll bars, wherever your weight jacker is set. You know how it's going to react in dirty air, how it's going to react in clean air. You just know what the car is going to do at all times. So I really just straight up trust their feeling. Trust, if they like the primes better, they're going to run the primes. And I full-heartedly understand and trust their decision. Since I'm not out there driving, I can't make that decision for them. It is them that are responsible for that. And here now we're looking at a Wall who's right behind Heisman. A bit of a moment there, yeah.
Getting a little bit out of shape there as he's chasing down Heitzman. And I was looking at Glenworth here, right, who's also actually just a spot off the road, unfortunately. But I was going to say, do you want to know who Liam O'Sullivan's crash helps out? Glenworth. He's walking in with the top 10 now because of that.
Yeah, and I talked about it, I think, 20 laps ago at this point. But when you're in this championship fight, it's a little bit of a lockup, spins it around, performs the pirouette,
good job to keep
gets
it off
that
the wall.
Thing back into first gear, and yeah, very luckily for him, kept it off of the wall. And yeah, Glenworth essentially just driving laps, keeping that car out there, able to already pick up 2 positions just by surviving, because Dan Ench and Liam O'Sullivan both got terminal damage, and even though Glenworth is 4 laps down, he is still going to finish the race ahead of them. So yeah, 2 places, I believe, in the IndyCar points is a whole other 4 points, which by the end of the season, that could literally win him the championship.
So Altena and Eveting continuing in the fight here for second and third as well. Half a second between the two. And for the time being, they are not showing any signs of wanting to get too much closer than that to fight it out. Still got Heitzma. Hasn't been able to break away from the draft from Amon Lal. So this gap still one that could close down as well in the closing 20 laps.
Yeah, now I kind of want to revisit that topic of driving based off feeling and that intuition that these drivers have. Because there's a really interesting gaming concept of the difference between the heart, the body, and the mind when you're playing different games like Super Smash Bros, Overwatch are the 2 games that it's really brought into account. Those players that play with the body, they follow meta, they do exactly what is perfect every single time, they know what to do in every situation. That's kind of what I was talking about earlier with they're the ones that know the formula instead of knowing how to derive the formula. Then you have those mind players. They're the ones that outthink their opponent. You know, they're able to adapt to a situation based on what they think is correct and based on, you know, how their brain is just functioning. And then you have what I am and what probably every single racing driver is, and that is the heart players. They do things based off of feeling, they do things based off of intuition, and they simply make decisions based on what they are feeling at a given moment. And that is what you have to do if you're a racing driver. If your car feels different, you have to adjust. If you feel like you should brake a little bit earlier into the corner, then you're gonna brake a little bit earlier into the corner. And it's really interesting to see that as I'm a racing driver, I've learned to become a heart player, a heart video gamer. When I play other games like Overwatch, like League of Legends, that carries over. And I do a lot of things based off of intuition and based off of feeling. So it's really cool just to see how all these video games interact and, you know, the difference between the heart, the body, and the mind. And simply racing drivers, all 17 people here today, I guarantee you, Nolan, are going to be racing with the majority of their heart, because that's just simply what we do.
And here we have the fight between Heitzma and Lal starting to pick up. So time to get to the racing action here, right? As Amon Lal fighting this one out here with Anthony Heitzma just under. We've also got Altena and Eveting that are starting to close in as well. So plenty of action still yet to come here in the back 17 laps of this one as Amon Lal seeks to close in the gap to Anthony Heitzma. A quarter of a second. Is that enough for a look? He's going to make the look to the inside. Not able to commit to the bit, though, as he goes and backs out of that run into turn 10A.
Yeah, and now this is primary versus primary tires. So there's definitely no tire advantage, but what there might be is Heitzma might have to save a little bit more fuel than Amon Lal, because if you remember, he did pit that 2 to 3 laps earlier.
Boy.
So, whoa!
Jeez.
Very wide for Lal.
And that's going to cost him dearly, almost a full second worth of time. Back to Anthony Heitzma and Roden Eveting, struggling to close up to the back of Julian Altena as well. So we'll have to wait a bit for the fight for fifth to pick up again. But meanwhile, Eveting running down Altena's number 11.
Okay, so yeah, now it's starting to spice up here with 16 to go. These battles are really starting to form, and we can get a really good picture of what's happening here. We have Solo Wise, 19 seconds in the lead, way out of everybody, way out ahead of everybody, but can he make it on fuel is the big question now. Then we have the battle between Altena and Eveting, that battle for second. Teammate on teammate, of course, but at the end of the day, this could be for the race win, and if I'm Roden Eveting, I'm giving it everything I got. Then we have Vogelzang sitting in no man's land. And gap behind, second gap behind. He's just sitting in fourth and having a jolly old time. And then Heitzema versus Lal, the battle that we're focusing on here right now. Lal is fuel saving just that bit less than what Heitzema has to do. So Lal knows he has more pace, wants to get past the driver of the 22 machine, and he might just be able to do it down into turn 10 if he can get a run out of 7.
Come on, Lal. Trying to duck his way through as Anthony Heitzema under fire, and I don't think Heitzema's going to be able to fend off Amon Lal this time by. Push to pass being utilized by both drivers here down the straightaways. Oh, it's a big pinch of Heitzema. Amon Lal nearly, no, they make contact. The two of them come together, and front wings broken on both sides of the battle here. Somehow they keep it on the racetrack. Anthony Heitzema with missing the left half of the front wing. Amon Lal missing the right half, and Amon Lal with a black flag. He'll have to come to pit road to serve that. And Heitzema is in for damage repairs.
And we're crashing into each other at Michelin Raceway because 15 laps to go. It is go, go, go time for these drivers. They want to battle each other. They want to fight for every position, especially finishing top 5, Nolan, at the end of the day. Just feels good to say, but neither driver left each other the room they should have. Contact was made. Their cars even merged into each other for a time there. But it looks to be like both of those drivers hopefully have fixable damage and they're able to get that down pit lane, back repaired to full order. We might see both those drivers return back onto the racetrack. But if not, Nolan, it's once again Cledworth making up more positions just simply by being out there and surviving.
Three-tenths of a second between them as Solowaj put in some more push to pass, as well as the battle between Altena Autosport teammates continues to escalate down to 0.2 of a second. How long before Ruben Yvton gets tired of waiting around and decides to go for the move? Bit of a shallow exit of turn 10A and immediately putting in the push to pass and utilizing the slipstream, trying to go for potential for an overtake here into turn 10A, this time by a 10.5, down to a 10, pulls on the side, big block from Julian Altena. Yvton back to the left-hand side, dives to the inside at turn 10, and he is around the team principal, and Yvton taking off towards turn numbers 11 and 12.
Feisty move there from Julian Altena, putting a huge block on his teammate Yvton, defending the inside into one for his life. And I would love to get a replay of not only that, but oh no! Is that Clenworth spinning?
One car off the road and big issues. Not sure who it was, and I think it was for Amon Lal, who has actually just been disqualified. Amon Lal hit the instant limit, and he's been DQ'd. Battery failed to serve. I don't actually think he did come down pit road, so I think Amon Lal hit the instant limit.
Oh no. And that, a disqualification, Nolan. Not only does that lose him all of the positions he gained, that straight up puts him finishing 17th, dead last in the points. And a big rear lockup just gives him another 2x.
And that is enough to send him over the edge. And, well, Roden Yvton now up into the second place spot. Started the runaway as the fight continues to close in. Let's ride on board the Julian Altena for a few laps. We'll let you feel the noise here on GreenFlagTV as time continues to slip away. Well, the fight's starting to really pick up pace here between the top two with less than 10 laps to go. Roden Eefting continue to hold on, but Julian Altena closing back into a 10th and a half as they enter turn number 1 and not willing to let his teammate go down without a fight.
Yeah, it's getting feisty between the 18 and the 11, and what caused that is we saw it when we were feeling the noise. The 18 of Roden Eefting got a little bit loose exiting turn 3, and that allowed Julian Altena to close that gap, get right on the back of him, and now with some good time push to pass coming out of 7, this could be the chance where Altena gets that car back into second position.
Half a second between the two, 4/10 now. Eefting put in some push to pass. Altena's putting in a heck of a lot more, though. It's a big question, right? How much push to pass do drivers have left? Well, the answer is Altena's got 11 seconds more than Eefting has. So so Altena's got a good bit more that he can use here. In fact, neither driver's really used all that much from the start of this race. They've used less than half of their total push to pass allotted to them in this race. And considering the 7 laps to go, I'd be wanting to start burning that up, honestly.
Yeah, 111 seconds of push to pass with 7 to go is absolutely momentous. That is enough push to pass for every single straight from here to the end of the race, essentially. I mean, you think that back straight is what, Nolan, 10, 15 seconds long, maybe? That front stretch being at most 6 or 7 seconds. These drivers got to start using that up because finishing the race with push to pass is simply just pace being lost. But of course, in a fuel race, it does make a little bit of sense because remember, push to pass does burn a little bit of that extra fuel. And if you're trying to save fuel, using push to pass is just indeed counterintuitive. So it does make sense why these drivers haven't been on the button all that often, but still, you do not want to finish the race with 100 seconds of push to pass left.
Kostek Solowaj continues to lead the way at the very front of the field by a good long while, so he's going to be having quite the effort for it. Let's get a chance to get a word in here with one of the drivers that is no longer in this race before the end. We'll speak to Dan Ench here, who unfortunately finds himself down and out of the race. Dan, a tough way to close out racing action tonight for you. What happened from your perspective?
Well, I'm not exactly sure what happened, to tell you the truth.
Well, overall, again, not the way we're hoping to have this race go down this late in the season. What does this mean for you and your championship goals?
Championship goals? Come on now. I'm just out here having a little bit of fun. I'm not really entertaining any championship aspirations. But yeah, I had a whole line of the leaders behind me, and I went to the right, and the first couple went right by me, and then all of a sudden I got tagged. And I can't figure out. That wasn't like Liam at all.
Well, we got 2 mile-long races left. One going to be, of course, at the Milwaukee Mile in Wisconsin. The other one in Avondale, Arizona, and Phoenix. What's going to be your take as we swing to 2 higher downforce ovals before the season's out?
Well, my goal is to get a couple of top 10s and get a couple of those 20th place finishes and DNFs out of the way on the scorecard. That would be kind of nice to see if I could get into the top 12 or 13 or so. I think that's about where I should be. So we're going to be trying to do that and trying to get up toward the front a little bit so I can get a little screen time for als.org. That would be nice too.
Well, Dan, we'll wish you the best of luck then when we swing out to Wisconsin next week. Congratulations on what so far has been a relatively good season for you, and unfortunate way to end out the night. We'll see you next time out in Milwaukee.
All right, you guys are doing a great job. Keep it up.
Dan Ench coming home. He'll be classified as 12th by the end of the night. A tough way to end his night. And Julian Altena having an issue as backing off falls off by 1.3 seconds.
Yeah, that makes me think, Nolan, that either one, he just messed up the corners essentially, or maybe got a little bit damaged. But what I think that is he burnt a little bit too much fuel trying to fight with Roden Eefting for second place, and now he has to compensate for that and back off a little bit, lift the throttle, maybe even drop those engine maps down a little bit. As I say that, he is reeling that gap in right away. And yeah, you saw that just that little bit of tap of push to pass coming out of 5 there. That's what you want to do. You don't want to run the push to pass down the entire straight because it's mitigated returns. You know, as you gain more speed, the push to pass gets less and less effective as the straight goes on. So you want to use it at the start of the straights and then stop it midway through so you don't waste it. Just like Julian was doing there, he stopped it by the time he got to turn 9 because that is the most efficient way to use push to pass, ERS, any sort of energy recovery system like that.
Half a second between the two as they will take 3 laps to go. The fight continues on. Both drivers running the prime tires, both of them on the same lap in terms of tire strategy. Kostek Solowaj will be looking to take 2 to go in just a little while. Right now, there is no competition to disrupt these 2 drivers, so they are more than free to just fight it out amongst themselves.
Yeah, I mean, it's that benefit of just putting yourself in a good position late in the race. So it's a little bit wide, though. Exit a 6 for Roden Evetink. He's got to be careful about making these mistakes. One minor mistake, Nolan, and your team boss is right there waiting to pounce on you. And now with 3 to go, the question comes down to, did Kostek Solowaj, did he save enough fuel to make it to the end on this final stint? Or does he have to come down pit road one final time for a splash and dash? Honestly, I don't know. It's gonna be close because remember, he had to save about 24 to 25 laps of fuel here, and he really hasn't lost that much time to Roden Evetink and Julian Altena. So I don't know, Nolan. This is gonna be a close one to see if that 95 did what he had to do for the fuel game.
Solowaj utilizing the push to pass, so he clearly thinks he's got enough fuel to make it to the end because he is not saving at all right now by utilizing the good old P2P. Altena doing the same to try to close the gap here into turn 6. And now back out through 7. They'll be looking to take the final lap this time by. And there you see Evetink putting in the push to pass, breaking the draft, trying to snake left and right across the racetrack to keep his teammate and team boss behind him. Altena closing in more and more. Down, round the outside, trying for it in the 10A, not able to get there.
Yeah, he broke super late into the corner. You saw his rear sliding out. What that tells me is just carried too much speed as he tried to turn the car in. He's running a very rear-sided brake bias. And as he turned that car in, the rears didn't give him the grip he wanted. And now that consequential mistake is going to put him a second back off of Evetink. And now maybe he still might just have one more chance, as Clenworth probably will just park it now. But we'll go back to this main battle for a second here.
Clenworth spinning off the racetrack and now being caught out. Oh, hold on, look out! Is holy cow! Clenworth pick a lane as he did not know where to go. Meanwhile, Kostek Solowaj coming out of the final corners and coming around. It is a dominating performance. Kostek Solowaj wins the race here at Road Atlanta. And now the battle for second. Altena trying to hold on. Evetink trying to find a way through. Altena got through this time by. Evetink trying to go for the over under the 10A. Can't get a run through 10B. Nearly runs into the gearbox coming out of 10B that time by. Up over the hill, diving down to the start finish line. Julian Altena holds on for second.
What a battle to end it out. Altena on the last lap with maybe of an accidental pick sent by Kyle Clenworth, able to take second place away from his teammate Roden Evetink. And now here we have Brian Fiolis and Heitzema battling, both a lap down. They'll finish 5th and 6th respectively. And John Christensen will bring it home in 7th. The 3rd finishing Altena Autosports driver of the day, as unfortunately for Liam O'Sullivan and Amon Lal, they both will not be finishing this race. And of course, behind Christensen, it is Vinci and Kyle Clenworth finishing out your 9 driver grid here. Not 9-driver grid, but 9 drivers who finished the race out of the 17-driver grid.
Overall, a great race here this afternoon from Road Atlanta. Let's take a rundown of your official post-race results here this afternoon. And out of the 18 cars that were set to start this race, only 17 started, only 4 finished on the lead lap, only 9 finished in general. Coming home, number 1 this afternoon, it's Cossack Soloage with Julian Altena in second. Road Deep finishes off in third with Milan Vogelsang in fourth. Heitzma back in fifth. Brian Fiolos in sixth. John Christian was in 7th, Andres Vince in 8th, Kyle Clemworth, the last car to finish this race, in 9th, and, Amon Lal DQ'd out of this race, classified in 10th.
Yeah, and then finishing in 11th, it'll be Liam O'Sullivan, followed by Dan Ench, Marshall Crocker Jr., Vitor Gilherme, Matt Brewer, Sebastian Dufresne, Sebastian Kinder, and then Senna Bokovic, who I believe was not able to race due to a lack of practice laps in the practice session.